Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Madcapper. There's another video on Raid Shadow Legends. Before we get into the video, yesterday was Pink Shirt Day. I have mentioned in the past, I wear the pink shirt, Be Kind beanie every video for the last year and a half. It is a foundation that is very close to my heart. And so because of that, this month, now unfortunately it was on a Wednesday, so we're going to do this on the weekend. Hopefully it'll be this weekend. If not, it'll be next weekend, either this Saturday or next. We're going to do a fundraiser where all proceeds raised from the stream will go to this. But if you want to check it out beforehand, I'm going to bring it up right here. It is pinkshirtday.ca, and it is mainly a Canadian charity, but it is actually spreading throughout North America. And I just want to read it for you because it is such an important charity to me. And I think it's one that if you agree with, you can get involved, you can donate, you can talk to your local representative and get this established in your home state or county or district or whatever you can. Do whatever you can to get this going. So bullying is a major problem in our schools, workplaces, homes, and online. Over the month of February and throughout the year, CKNW Kids Fund Pink Shirt Day aims to raise awareness of these issues as well as raise funds to support programs that foster children's healthy self-esteem. Here it is, our story. Now, a movement celebrated across the globe, Pink Shirt Day has humble beginnings. Inspired an act of kindness in small-town Nova Scotia, the CKNW Kids Fund, working with partners, Boys and Girls Clubs, and 980 CNKW, was inspired to raise funds to support anti-bullying programs. Here's a snippet of an article detailing the original incident. David Shepard, Travis Price, and their teenage friends organized a high school protest to wear pink in sympathy of a grade 9 boy who was being bullied for wearing a pink shirt. They took a stand against bullying when they protested against harassment of a new grade 9 student by distributing pink t-shirts to all the boys in their school. I learned that two people can come with an idea, run with it, and it can do wonders, says Mr. Price, 17, who organized the pink protest. Finally, someone stood up for a weaker kid. So Mr. Shepard and some others headed to a discount store, bought 50 tank tops, pink tank tops. They sent out the message to schoolmates that night, and the next morning they hauled the shirts into the school in the plastic bags. They stood in the foyer handing out the shirts. The bullied boy walked in. His face spoke volumes. It looked like a huge weight was lifted off his shoulders, Mr. Price recalled. The bullies were never heard from again. So what an amazing, it's an amazing story. And it's also sparked an amazing once a year, but really all the time. And it was February 22nd, 2023, which is yesterday, was the official Pink Shirt Day. But there's so much things, and you can read through all the things they do. There's also an opportunity to donate and get involved. There's fundraise, posters, part proceeds, enlist your workplace, news and events. So there's a whole bunch of ways that you can get this in your area or support it in your area simply by shopping and buying one of the cool, I wear this all the time, but there's other things as well. There's the shirt, the buttons, the friendship bracelets. This year, there's a pink bandana. I still saw the beanie. The beanie's still around. I know, there it is. That's what you guys wanted to see. There's a sports bottle with all the proceeds going to the youth anti-bullying programs throughout Western Canada. 1 in 5 kids are affected by bullying. Please get involved if you want. So that is my 4-minute spiel on Pink Shirt Day. Now the video itself, and we're just going to stay over here. We're going to flip over to here because this is my friend Chosen and a video he did a few days ago called the Top 10 Most POWERCREPT Champions. Well, I felt like I want to do the same and steal his idea. That seems to be Madcapper 2023. Steal other content creator ideas. Bless your souls. Doing it again. But in Madcapper style, we're going to do all epics. So I'm going to give you the top 10 most POWERCREPT epics in the game as of February 2023. So let's get right into it. All right, let's get right into it here. Into the index we go with number 10. Number 10 on my list is Grizzled Jarl. Grizzled Jarl is a champion that in the early days of Dwarves was a very strong champion for this game. And the reason why is he had a, when booked, and relatively easily booked, although this is ridiculous, it was a 3-turn cooldown on a block debuff. This was very good for affinity. So you can block the decrease attack, the decrease speed, or the decrease accuracy. Very strong for that. If you needed, you could use it instead for the block the stun. But overall, a very strong champion in these kind of standard 1-to-1 ratio clan bosses. The reality is, we know so much more about the clan boss thanks to friends of mine like Deadwood Jedi and his clan boss calculator that allows us to run speeds 4-3, 5-2, 2-1, 3-1, which is really making champions, believe it or not, with 3-turn cooldowns less desirable because they're harder to tune. And this is a champion who suffers from that, and the reality is Grizzle doesn't really bring any damage with him. This is a 4-turn cooldown, so it's not a reliable decrease attack. It's a good backup at best. And then on top of it, he puts that heal reduction. And there's just so many champions now that do this job better, plus the fact that we're running out of the classic block debuffs, decrease attack, counter, or just standard clan boss teams. We're running into a lot more unkillable and a lot more block damage teams, and those teams kind of take precedent, and therefore kind of put a champion like this on the back burner, especially when he doesn't have the damage to follow up. Also, the addition of a lot better like Melga, a lot better champions among epics here, Flya, Demetha, Melga, Fodbor, Dajuk, all much better champions to use in the faction wars. Of course, Geomancer, making Grizzle Jarl pretty much useless. I would be shocked if most people, if not everyone, has him locked away in their vault. So number 10 is Grizzle Jarl. Number 9, let's go to Knights Revenant. Still a great champion. Don't forget, some of these champions have been POWERCREPT, but they're still amazing. This is a champion that was mentioned in Chosen's video. Absolutely, I agree, and that's Miscreated Monster. He used to be top 3 epic in the game. When he first came out in that Halloween kind of bunch of epics, he was so strong and so good, and I'm sure it was by accident. But the reality is there was 2 major flaws with him. Number 1, when we get to 21 through 25 dungeons, those spiderlings hit so hard that a lot of times he gets into trouble with this ally protection. Yet this ally protection with the continuous heal and the instant heal is part of what makes this guy so strong. So that was kind of it. There's a lot different technique used in 21 through 25. So eventually this guy gets replaced by stun or by freeze champions. Achok, for example, just makes it a little bit easier of a time. And so Miscreated Monster has kind of been stepped away. Also 21 through 25 dungeons in waves, he does not do enough damage with his A2 to make a big enough shield in the higher level dungeon waves to really be as strong as he was in the progression era. Still an amazing champion. You pull this champion early on, it's still absolutely going to help you tenfold. It's a cheat code, but unlike when he first was entered into the game, he kind of falls off the edge a little bit, which is unfortunate because one of my favorite champions. But Miscreated Monster is number 9. Number 8 on my list. Let's keep going from bottom to top. This isn't in a particular order. I'm just doing that so we don't forget anyone. Number 8 on the list is Madame Saris. Now, I know she, again, another champion who's still really good. But this is a champion who, along with Miscreated Monster, could easily be defined as top 3 in the game. But a couple things happened. First off, she lost this ability on a 3-turn debuff. It used to be a 3-turn. They changed it to a 2-turn. A simple change that made her less desirable in PvE. She's still good, but if you have a different champion, one of the other champions that do this same ability, Deacon, Stag Knight, Duck, just to name a few, Ugo, and others, then you'll probably be using them over her. There's a lot more legendaries that have the ability as well. So you're just kind of gravitating to those over her because of the cooldown is just a more favorable cooldown for you. Plus, someone like Lydia, as you progress, you'll get a Lydia free who's got it on a 3-turn with a decreased defense and a weaken. Things like that just make it a little bit less desirable. Still very strong, not quite it used to be. The other thing is the meta has shifted in PvP. Now, again, still really good to have a strip and debuff, but because of polymorph, this is a little bit scarier. And on top of that, a lot of the new champions, the top couple champions in the meta, do not need debuffs in order to ply their trade. Baron doesn't need a debuffer. Georgie, as I call him, the Nutcracker, doesn't need a debuffer, potentially. So because they don't need them, and because people are building these Strongo second teams that don't have a spot for someone who's here just to strip and they don't and debuff. They need someone like a Kymar who can sleep and reset, or you know, a lot of I like using the Sathalia because you can also heal and a single cleanse and you know, you per meter manipulation. Madame Saris, because of these different things and the shifting meta, she's less desirable. She's less of a top tier than she used to be. Still very great, but not nearly where she was when she was introduced into the game, what, 2.5 years ago. So that's number 8 on my list. Number 7 from Demon Spawn. I have 2 in the Demon Spawn that I'd like to bring up. The first one is Nizana. And Nizana used to be a very strong champion for people that wanted to complete Spider because of the weak affinity tank. And because we only went up to Dungeon 20, she just kind of stayed in the relevancy. And it's because she has an AoE A1 allowing her to heal herself back up using Lifesteal and a War Master proc. And she has an ally protection with the shield being 40% of a very high HP on an HP based champion. Couple problems. Number 1, this is attack based on attack even though she's an HP champion. This is based on attack even though she's an HP champion. Please fix those. And this decreased attack is only a 75%, so it's not quite as strong. The ally protect, I think people prefer having that increased defense over the entire team, which most ally protect have, instead of a shield just on this champion. That was very good for the weak affinity tank spiderlings, but not so good for a lot of the higher end dungeons and places where ally protect is so strong. So she's still usable, but I just think that there's so many other champions that people prefer to use in places like the clan boss Hydra, whereas places where this ally protection is very strong, she just kind of falls off a little bit. So that's why Nizana's power crept at number 7. And then number 6, we're going to talk about Padma. And I don't know if Padma's been power crept or just forgotten, because she still has a pretty decent kit. She attacks one enemy, can steal those buffs to herself, 3-turn cooldown. She's got a decreased accuracy. The problem is that decreased accuracy is way too low. It is a 3-turn cooldown AoE, but that decreased accuracy should be booked to 75 or even to 100, to be honest with you, to make her a little more viable. She's a void affinity, so she'd be very desirable on a 3-turn cooldown, 100% decreased accuracy. The other thing is this decreased attack. Such a good skill, but I think just because she doesn't hit hard enough, and because she doesn't quite bring what you need to the table, I think a lot of people are just negating having a decreased attack, for example, in Hydra, because they want their Geo to take damage, because that gives more damage back, which increases their score. And there's a lot of champions now that have decreased attack, so this is not quite as strong, though I would argue it's still every bit as strong, and I'm not quite sure. Hey, attacks one enemy 2 times, and I'm pretty sure either time can drop that. So it's a near 100%. You get that 3% resist twice. That's a pretty crazy odds of happening. But overall, very strong champion. Just been power crept by kits. I think the overall kits of some of the people that she would have to replace just makes them a better option than she, unfortunately. But maybe it's just we don't use her. Maybe she's just a forgotten champion. In at number 6. Number 5 from the Orcs, and probably one of the top ones in the list if we were to do this in order, and that's Zargala. Zargala, she has a career in television and movies with Raid Shadow Legends, but the reality is originally she was 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, she was a monster. She was a nightmare to deal with. The reason was most of your team was Magic Affinity, and here came this Force Affinity who can debuff and hit you really hard. And if she hits one target and kills them, then she hits your whole team really hard again. The problem with her is people want reliability, and this decreased defense is only a 75% chance, and it means that she's just being ignored for champions that have a better, even within her own faction. You want that reliability that she doesn't have. The reality is she's either a debuffer or a nuker, and she doesn't quite hit hard enough to be one of your best nukers, and she doesn't quite debuff well enough to be just one of your debuffers. And now that other champions, most notably Duck, who's one of the best decreased defense epics in the game, just makes Zargala kind of a second fiddle in her own faction, let alone the whole game. So at number 5, Zargala. Number 4, we go to Lizardmen, and this might be an interesting pick, but I truly believe it, and that's Jizzo. 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, very at the infancy of this game, Jizzo was your second login champion that you'd receive, sort of thing. In the 5 days, you get Shaman, then you get Jizzo, and this guy's actually kind of good. He has a counter attack that gives you an extra turn, and then it's on one ally. You can put it on your. I would put it on myself, on himself, or whoever's getting attacked. Your lead. And then he can provoke, and that provoke is a 4-turn cooldown. But if you did the provoke first, then the counter attack, and then you got the extra turn, that would cool down. The cooldown would drop on this, so it's not too bad. The reality is, this doesn't quite work. The AI is stupid, so the counter attack's never on the person you want it to. The provoke is a 2-turn provoke, but it really doesn't quite pull off the way it used to in the early days. And I think the fact that he's Spirit Affinity, which was with so many magic nukers, making him a little bit easier as more and more goes. He has an aura for attack, even though he's a defense-based champion. He's pretty low speed. So it just kind of been like, he kind of was underwhelming. Single target. His A1 doesn't hit hard enough to be that, this is more annoying than dangerous because he just didn't hit quite hard enough. If you get caught off guard by a really well-built Jizzo nowadays, yeah, maybe. But the reality is most people use him for food because he's a free 4-star chicken early in the game. But Jizzo is number 4 on my list. Number 3 and 2, both from Sacred Order. Number 3 on the list, Mistress of Hymns. Used to be one of my favorite slept-on champions. The reality is she has been power crept to the great googly moogly. She is a reviver, but a 5-turn cooldown reviver. And she is a healer, but heals mostly off of damage on her A1. It was fun to build her with really good damage and get those heals. The reality is you want your nukers to nuke, you want your healers to heal, you want your revivers to revive. And she doesn't do any of those quite well enough. This is, it's only 2 champions with that 15% continuous heal. If it's critical, it's a 5-turn on reviving with just a standard veil for 1 turn. Not really that strong. And then this which can be strong in certain comps is really hard to pull off. This as a legitimate heal, and there are more and more healers in the game that just do a better and better job. So Mistress of Hymns, number 3, and number 2 on the list, Talia. Talia used to be an absolute stalwart and a pain in the ass to deal with in the arena. She actually has even been buffed. And because of that buff, she now has this increased crit rate, which can be on 100% as long as it doesn't get stripped, obviously, which means you can build her better. But the reality is she's still underwhelming as compared to what else you can have in the game. And I think even Juliana's improvements have kind of outpaced Talia's. And the fact that Juliana with Romero are a viable duo in the early, mid, and even into the late game, 3v3, faction wars, free to play. And it just makes it harder to use someone like Talia effectively in this game. She still has some uses. I think a 3-hit A1, the counter attack can be fun. She's got a weaken. The bomb is stupid. The baby increased attack is recklessly woeful, if that's a thing. But overall, just not as as feared as it was 3 years ago when this same champion with good gear was used in the arena. And then finally, my number 1, and you guys have probably guessed it, but if you haven't, shame on you. Number 1 POWERCREPT champion in the game is Tyrell. Tyrell, one of my favorites. He was my first pulled epic in the game. He got me through so much content. He put clan boss and every dungeon, everywhere. I use this guy everywhere. And the reality is, with all the new champions in the game, both legendaries and epics, he's just not as strong as he was. He has a 4-turn cooldown on his decreased defense that has a sleep if the person also has a decreased attack, which is situational at best and really underused. Really, you have to... Maybe you can argue this could be for the Sand Devils Necropolis. You can make this work, sure, but honestly, it's not as strong as it could be, and that 4-turn cooldown just makes it worse than a lot of the other champions, which we've already mentioned. Same problem that happened with Zargala happened to Tyrell, just better. Now he also has this decreased attack. If it's a single target, 50% chance. Again, you have several of his counterparts that have a 3-turn cooldown on that decreased defense and put the decreased attack on with it. So it just makes it an easier build than this one. He does have that turn meter. It's only 50%, not 100%. And the top dungeons now make that 25%. So again, you know, just the advent of the game, the advent of the number of champions, the different tunes in the clan boss that no longer need decreased attack, all of that combined is just put Tyrell in this used to be #1 in the game, now is be hard pressed to stay top 20. Still an early, mid, and late game boss. Still very strong in faction wars if you don't have a legendary to decrease defense, but been power crept to high heaven from a #1 to where he is now in the ranking among epics is just kind of a tragedy. So there is my list. There is my #1. What do you think? Was there a champion you would add among epics that I should have put on this list, or a champion that you just don't agree that is on the list? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to check out Pink T-shirt Day. Give your donations. Stay tuned for my Twitch stream where I will be donating proceeds coming soon. Honestly, probably going to be next weekend just because this weekend is a little bit tight for me. But we'll see. We'll see. And most importantly, please be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.